Holy balls, we're back in the saddle with another episode of World 1-1 Podcast, the flagship podcast of the World 1-1 Podcast Network. Before we get into the meat and taters, you can and should find us in all the places that you get your podcasts, and you can also hit us up and talk with us over on Twitter at World1_1 Podcast. You can also and should also check us out on our YouTube channel where we've got lots of groovy content. There is a Twitch channel that does exist that may be getting active again here in the next couple of months as a few things roll out and stabilize. But beyond that, let's push past the bullshit and let's get to the fun stuff. I am, as always, your host, Larry the Bearded Wonder. Joining me this delightful evening is Zoe.
Sup?
Kathy.
Hello.
And Josh the Money LeGrew.
Hello.
So let's dive straight into, oh my God, video games. Rapid fire, because it's been a while and we're just going to condense this down. Let's start with, because I haven't talked to you in the longest, it feels like. Kathy, what the hell have you been playing?
Skyward Sword HD. That's it.
Yeah?
How you liking it?
I've only gotten through like the first part.
I haven't even started it yet.
But I will say, I didn't know this. I learned something. I didn't know that there was actually a cutscene at the beginning of the game. I never waited long enough.
Really?
And I did not know it. I missed out on this cutscene. Never saw it in anybody's playthroughs where I'd watch. Nothing. So, yeah. But I'm excited, and I've got my Joy-Cons, which will never come out of the box. The only thing missing is my amiibo.
Oh yeah. I'm looking for those two. They're impossible to find.
They are. So,
and I guess the other one was a shipping delay on. So the one of them. So hopefully in August they'll come to the store.
I'm hoping to see them, and I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. So we'll see. But that's what I've been playing.
Fingers crossed. We got our eyes peeled for you for those two. So if I see them, I'll let you know and grab one and send it your way. So
I know, I appreciate it.
Zoe, I know a little bit of what you've been playing, but nobody else listening does. The hell have you been playing?
It's really been scattered. Like, I've not sat down and solidly sunk into anything. Nothing's caught me yet, but I was playing Bastion earlier today, and I really think that has captured my attention a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, but, like, I love the narrator. Like, I hope he just keeps going throughout the entire fucking game.
He does.
It's magnificent. Like,
Yeah.
There was one part where I was just smashing stuff, and he was like, yeah, he rages on for a bit. And I was just like, yes, please.
No, the narration and the narrator in that episode is fantastic. The amount of work that went into that for dialogue and recording and script writing. Whew.
I started playing Sea of Solitude, which is really good, but like I definitely think it's a game I'm gonna have to play with someone sitting next to me. It definitely hits on the feels, and I feel like if you've got any sort of trauma, please don't play that game by yourself. That's just a PSA thrown out there for the listeners. Don't play it by yourself. Like I was happy that Larry happened to be sitting next to me. I don't know how I would have reacted to that game. Like, eventually it got to the scene where I was like, yeah, I need to put this down now. And I just couldn't. But I think those are the two big ones I've been playing.
Okay.
Cool.
Look, LeGrew, what have you been spinning in your disk drive?
Okay. So recently Mass Effect Legendary Edition and some Defense Grid 2. I don't know if you've ever played that. So
I have not. Tell me about Defense Grid 2.
Defense Grid and Defense Grid 2, they're tower defense games.
Okay.
And so you're like in this futuristic setting, kind of post-apocalyptic setting. You have an AI, and you have enemies come in waves on a predetermined pattern, and you have to set up towers, either like cannons, inferno towers, or a bunch of different stuff. It's kind of fun. For me, it's a very zen game to kind of just play. Like if I just want to kind of strategize a little bit and zone out.
Yeah.
Mass Effect. I love Mass Effect. It's probably my favorite series, one of my favorite series of all time. And I've been chipping away at the Legendary Edition. I have so much going on at work that it's really hard to get any like meaningful time into that. But I'm starting to ramp up more on that now. So I want to get that. I want to get through that because that's a good series of games.
Okay. Speaking of tower defense and Zen, have you ever played or checked out Euphoria?
No, I have never played that, and I've been suggested that for a while now. People have said
Okay.
to play it. I should check it out.
It's kind of a hybrid of like RTS and tower defense, and
Sure.
it's very like chillaxed. I know Kathy's seen me play some of it. We have some of it up on the channel, I think, on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, maybe I'll look it up.
Um, it was one of those that I was doing some let's plays, kind of like late in the evening because it's a very wind down, chill game, and Kathy was like, watching you play this and just listening to your voice is like ASMR.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah.
So, but no,
Very
it's a
relaxing.
dope little game. So, highly recommend. Now you've got me wanting to go back and play Lock's Quest again too because I haven't played that in like 10 years, and that's a bomb ass tower defense game too.
Yeah, I was just craving something simple, a little
Yeah.
more simple that I sometimes love to play, just put on and just, I don't worry about it. You can pause it if you have to, but you can also fast forward it. You can make time go faster, time go slower. It's kind of nice. It's a good game. If anybody likes tower defense, Defense Grid and Defense Grid 2 are some pretty good ones to play.
Okay. Let's see. What have I been playing? I've been piddling my way back through Zero Mission and Fusion. I both wrapped up for obvious reasons. I realized I haven't played them in a couple of years actually, and felt stupidly rusty. I'm like, this is fucking weird. So I'm on my quest to pluck my way through the mainline Metroid series again before October, and so I got a couple of them knocked out, and I think I'm actually going to run all three of the Metroid 2 games just for
Nice.
fun, and then re-zip my way through Super, and I'll have all those done and knocked out and be, amply excited, even though, I already am for Dread in October. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's been most of it, but I've also kind of been knocking around a few things on my Switch. I went back and redabbled with Ghost Runner for a little bit after watching the absolutely fucking just crushingly stellar speed run.
What was it, like 38 minutes or something like that?
Yeah, oh my god, it is just so disgustingly smooth and amazing to watch. If you haven't checked it out, you guys totally should. It was part of SGDQ this year, and man, it just like that game's already so much fun. And I always just kind of thought when I started playing it, I'm like, man, I really want to see somebody play this perfectly, and it did not disappoint.
Awesome.
So it was as good as I'd hoped. Slay the Spire kind of stays in the background rotation. Not as heavily as it was, but it's still there. The occasional bout of Downwell still has its hooks in me as well. I'm thinking that might be one I still need to track down the physical for. I'm like, I know I'm going to pay like $50 for a $5 game, but I don't care. It's really good and it deserves it. So it'll probably happen one of these days. I found out too when they released that physical, get this, they had a bundle that came with the flip grip.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm like, that's dope. I want to see more of that action.
Who released that game?
What the Special Reserve.
Oh, that's why I never heard of it, because I don't ever check their site anymore.
Yeah, Special Reserve, which they've got a couple of good ones up for another couple of days still. They're doing physicals of Talos Principle and Disc Room.
Ooh, Talos Principle. I like that game.
Yeah, the packaging on both looks real sharp. So
maybe I'll do that one instead or something. I don't know.
Right. Which, yeah, I think that covers most of anything of importance that I've been playing. So without further ado, I know this is a little short for the first section, but let's take a pause and then we'll jump into the third half of the show this week. And but before we hit the break, or as we hit the break, let's give you a primer and let you know that we're going to check in with the Hard Copy Hounds report, and we'll be right back after the break. Welcome to Hard Copy Hounds, powered by World 1-1 and sponsored by Premium Edition Games and their upcoming release, Cathedral. This week, we're bringing you all the releases from across the internet for you hard copy hounds that want a physical copy to stick on your shelf, keep in your library, and say that you actually own. So let's get into the list. This week we're starting off with limited run games currently available. We are showing Tailgater on the Game Boy, which is available for open pre-order through August 8. Shantae's Risky's Revenge on PS5 is in open pre-order till August 8. The Takeover for both Switch and PS4 available in open pre-order till July 25th. Ruby Grim Eclipse coming to the Switch with an open pre-order available through August 15th. Republic, the Anniversary Edition on Switch and PS4 is currently available in open pre-order till August 1st. Infliction Extended Cut is available on the PS4 through an open pre-order that starts on July 23rd and runs through August 22nd. Also coming at you from Limited Run is Outbreak Collection, available on the PS4 in an open pre-order available till August 15th. Little Witch Academia VR Broom Racing is available for PlayStation VR in open pre-order through August 15th, and Alphidia Genesis on the PS4 and PS5, all available through Limited Run. Also coming through Limited Run Games distribution line, we are seeing currently this week Shadows of Adam on Switch and PS4, the Falconeer Warrior Edition for Switch and PS4, Victor Vran Overkill Edition on Switch and PS4, Going Under on Switch and PS4 is currently in pre-order till August 26th. Death End Request for the Switch is currently available for purchase and is in hand, as well as Hyperlight Drifter for the Switch is available for purchase and in hand. Harvest Moon One World is available on Switch in open pre-order currently, along with Billion Road Switch, which is currently in hand and ready to ship upon order. Holy Potatoes Compendium available on Switch in hand as well, along with Regions of Ruin for the Switch showing in hand and ready to ship. Last couple coming from the distribution line, we've got Super Epic, The Entertainment War, available for the Switch and in hand, ready to go, along with Arc of Alchemist for the Switch and in hand. Thea, The Awakening, available on Switch and in hand. And lastly, from Limited Run Games distribution line, Mercenary Wings, available for the PlayStation 4 in hand and ready to ship upon order. Next on the list, we've got Super Rare Games, where you can currently get your orders in for Super Crush KO on the Switch, The Last Day of June, the Mipumi collection available on Switch as well. Unrailed for the Switch, Ida, Yes Your Grace, Monster Prom XXL, Old School Musical, all available for Switch, along with Little Inferno and Smoke and Sacrifice, available for the Switch. And with Super Rare, those are already in hand and ready to ship upon order. Going down the line, next site on our list, we've got Special Reserve Games, which currently you can pre-order the Talos Principle for Switch, which is in open pre-order till July 30th, along with Disc Room for the Switch in open pre-order through July 30th. Also available from Special Reserve is Demon Throttle for the Switch, which has an open pre-order running all the way through October 13th, and Broforce for both Switch and PS4, available in open pre-order through August 31st. Sliding on down the list, we've got our sponsor, Premium Edition Games, which currently has available Super Blood Hockey for the Switch and the Pigeon Devs game collection on Switch. Sliding down the list just a little further, we're looking at Strictly Limited Games, which currently has Rolling Gunner and Overpower collection for Switch and PS4 available in pre-order. Star Hunter DX and Space Moth Lunar Edition for Switch and PS4. Spelunker HD Deluxe available on Switch and PS4, along with Speed Limit, Clockwork, Aquario, both of which available for Switch and PS4. The Last Labyrinth on PlayStation 4. Bubble Bobble for Friends, The Baron is Back on both Switch and PS4. We've also got Darius Extra Version for the Genesis and Mega Drive, A Magical High School Girl available on Switch. Darius Cosmic Revelation on Switch and PS4. Also looking at the Turrican Anthology Volumes 1 and Turrican Anthology Volume 2, both available for Switch and PS4. Also available from Strictly Limited is Mega Turrican's Director's Cut for the Genesis and Mega Drive, depending on your region or side of the pond. Also seeing available Super Turrican 1 and Super Turrican 2 available separately for the Super Nintendo. We're looking next on the list here at Space Invaders Invincible Collection for the Switch, Pressure Overdrive on Switch and PlayStation 4, No Heroes Here on PlayStation 4, along with Coffee Talk, Darius Cosmic Collection, both for the PlayStation 4. Lode Runner Legacy is available on pre-order currently for Switch and PlayStation 4, and rounding out for Strictly Limited Games, Necrosphere Deluxe on PlayStation 4. Also available through their partner store is Connect Tank for Switch and PlayStation 4 on pre-order, along with Star Renegades, which is available for Switch and PS4 pre-order. Also available from their partner store, Witch Spring 3 Refine on Switch for pre-order, along with Wonder Boy, Asha in Monster World for Switch and PS4 pre-order. The brand new Cotton Reboot is available for pre-order on Switch and PS4, along with Root Double is available for pre-order on Switch. Yeast Origins for Switch and PS4 is available for pre-order, along with Crosscode for the PlayStation 4, and Umihara Kawasai Bazooka for Switch and PS4, all available for pre-order. Moving on down, we're looking at im8bit.com, which currently has available Mutazone for the Switch and PlayStation 4, the excellent Disco Elysium Final Cut Collector's Edition for PlayStation 4. The Ori Collector's Edition is still available for waitlisting on Switch currently from IM8-bit, and also available is Manifold Garden on Switch and the PlayStation 5, along with Etherborn for the Switch and PlayStation 4, Cardo and Spinch, along with Grindstone, all available for the Switch. The Res Infinite Eco Forward Edition for the PlayStation 4, the Pathless on PS5, and the Annapurna Deluxe Edition for PlayStation 4. You can also pick up your copy of Untitled Goose Game for Switch and PlayStation 4, along with Wadham and Inside, both for the PlayStation 4. And rounding out IM8-bit for this week is Gone Home on the Switch and Mega Man X on the Super Nintendo. We're going to move down to Signature Edition games, where you can currently grab your copies of Alex Kidd in Miracle World DX for Switch, PlayStation 4, PS5, and Xbox, Yonder on the Switch, PS4, and PS5, Hellpoint for Switch and PS4, Spirit of the North for Switch, PS4, and PS5, Cloudpunk for the Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One, Dead Cells currently available for Switch and PS4, the fantastic Streets of Rage 4 on Switch, PS4, and the Xbox, along with Children of Morta for Switch, PS4, and Xbox, Northgard for Switch, PS4, and Xbox, Bomber Crew available on Switch and PlayStation 4, along with For the King, and Bounty Battle, which you can grab for the Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox. Valfaris is currently available there for the Switch and PS4, and Vaporum for the Switch. You can also grab your copy of House Flipper for Switch, PS4, and Xbox, along with Sparklight for the Switch, PS4, and Xbox as well. Origami is available for the Switch, along with Dungeon of the Endless for the Switch and the PS4, and the 30-in-1 game collection for Switch. They've also got available for you the Instant Sports Summer Games on Switch, Moonlighter for PS4, Unbox Newbie's Adventure for PlayStation 4, Stranded Sails on PS4 and Xbox, The Long Reach and Darkest Dungeons, both available exclusively for PS4, Frostpunk for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and rounding out the list over at Signature Edition games this week, all for the PlayStation 4, is Riot, Candle, Brawlout, Hero Defense, and Runbow. Dropping down a little further, new to the list for hard copy hounds this week is East Asia Soft Games, which released their games for purchase physically through PlayAsia.com. Currently available from these two partners together, this week we're looking at Seabed on the Switch, Trigger Witch for Switch and PS5 are currently available for pre-order, Rainbow Skies on the PS4 and PS Vita, along with Rainbow Moon for PS4 and PS Vita as well. Alchemic Joust is available for PlayStation 4, along with Rive for the PlayStation 4. Semispheres is available for PS4 and PS Vita, as well as the Tachyon Project. Caveman Warriors, available for purchase on PS4, along with Vesta and Bleed plus Bleed 2 together on PS4, along with on Epic for the PlayStation 4, backed by X-Morph Defense, Black Sea Odyssey, Devious Dungeon, and Leap of Fate, all on PlayStation 4 as well. You can also grab your copy of Fall of Light Darkest Edition for the PlayStation 4 before we jump over to the Switch with, and it makes me cringe to say it as much as you're going to cringe to hear it, but you can grab your copy of Panty Party Perfect Body for the Switch, along with Murder by Numbers, Moriro, Crystal H, If My Heart Had Wings, and Distraint Collection, all available on the Switch from East Asia Soft and PlayAsia.com. And we're closing out this week by looking at Fangamer.com, where Bug Snacks for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 are currently available in an open pre-order, along with later Alligator for the Switch, Stardew Valley for Switch and PC, Hollow Knight for Switch, PS4, and PC, Undertale, all the way across the board available on the Switch, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Slime Rancher for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Spelunky available on PS4, PS Vita, and PC. And Hyperspace Outlaw on the Switch is currently available in an open pre-order from Fangamer.com. And that's going to wrap up the list here at Hard Copy Hounds this week. We hope you have a great week. We hope you manage to get your hands on everything that you want to pick up this week. And we'll leave you with the final message. Fuck the scalpers. Peace. And we're back with the third episode, or the third half of the episode this week. Yeah, it's been a while, Sumi. I've been working on other stuff.
I'm sorry. I tried not to laugh. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna laugh at it too. It's all good. You know, it's not. We're definitely not fucking professionals. Not even close.
Not anymore.
So,
No.
But in any case, yeah, pretty much. So, you know, like I said, I've been busy working on other stuff, which here's your reminder. You should check out all the awesome new stuff we've been rolling out. You just heard the Hard Copy Hounds report. We've also been rolling on Phazon Labs with Isabel Bramman. Definitely check that out.
Which is really good, by the way. I have to give a plug to that because
very good.
Really good. I like the way you guys are doing it. So I tune in to listen to that too. So.
Well, thank you. Actually, Kathy, I was thinking about you today when I was thinking about Phazon Labs because I was like, you know, a Zelda spun version of this would be cool too.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you came to mind. I'm like, you know, we could talk about putting you together with a couple of other fans and maybe starting up the Hylian Forge.
That'd be awesome. That would be awesome.
You know, we can have that talk.
That is something we can talk about. Yes, because.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I don't feel like I'm super into like one kind of big named series.
Sure.
Like Metroid's a thing, and I feel like that is a huge, and then like, you know, Legend of Zelda does, and I'm just like, not that they're bad games, but like I'm not super attached to them. I'm finding that I love the like really obscure ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
No. Not at all.
But yeah, but no, you can find those shows and some of our other upcoming stuff. Zoe is working on cooking a new show for the World 1-1 Podcast Network. We're also cooking another one with our friends Todd from the Secret Friends Unite podcast, as well as Chris from the 1 Hour 1 Decision podcast are coming on board for another new show that you'll find all in the same feed at world11.podbean.com. All spelled out, all one word. So make sure you check that out, or slide that RSS feed into your favorite podcatcher, and you'll get it all. So let's jump into it and deep dive into this week's topic. We're talking about self-censorship and censorship a little bit in general, and kind of some touchy subject matter. So be forewarned, there will be some discussion on the subject of self-harm and depictions of self-harm in gaming. So if this is a sensitive issue for you, be forewarned. This may not be for you. This may also be of interest and or informative. So let's get into this. News broke across our feeds this morning that the developers of CensorHot are releasing an update for CensorHot VR, which is not a strict VR re-release of CensorHot. It actually tells a companion / counterpart story to CensorHot. Both games, actually, both console and VR editions, do have some rather blunt, I won't call it explicit necessarily, but blunt depictions of self-harm in a rather odd way.
Yeah. Well, the first, even there is that one part where you have to jump off the building or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's really weird, especially when you're in VR. Because it does feel like you're kind of like doing it. And then there's the where you have to kill yourself, basically shoot yourself.
Right. You walk up behind your physical self and shoot yourself in the back of the head from behind yourself. Yeah, it's a whole weird thing.
It's weird.
So, but in any case, so a while back there was a update to CensorHot VR where they put in like a toggle where you could have it skip over those scenes. But now they are rolling out an update where it's just going to be removed altogether and there is no option.
Right.
And we were discussing a little bit earlier and thought, you know what, this just merits a whole conversation that we want to have. So I want to start with, you know what, Kathy, hit me with some thoughts here. I'm curious to hear what you think on the subject.
I kind of feel like we're going back to the days when it was, the discussions about our video games making people violent. And when I read that article, that's exactly kind of what I was thinking, that the concern was that these games are causing people to self-harm, that they are causing people to, that they're going to incite instances of self-harming, or creating the idea that to make it more, instead of having that natural urge to not do something that's going to make people it's going to make people desensitized. That's the word I was looking for. Desensitized to those thoughts and make them more willing to do these things.
To try that. Okay.
I think a lot of this is just saving themselves from an eventual lawsuit, because what I could see, because we know in our society everybody is very much about suing, and I could see somebody harming themselves or jumping off a building and then they go back and they look and they see, oh, they had access to this game, CensorHot. We're going to sue this company who created this game, and they're the reason why this person did this, so I think in a way that the developer is looking to protect themselves, to thinking ahead, which is good. As somebody who has dealt with those issues, when I played the game, it didn't trigger me. I never thought of it anyway. It was a video game, but again, I played it as a console, which is a little different. I understand VR is more realistic. I could see that really triggering to some people. Yeah. And so maybe it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's necessary, where do we start? What is really happening? But it's understandable, and I could see where the developers are coming from with this. But I also question too.
I don't think it's like with that is it art, or is it the?
Yeah, it's a. And I mean, again, are we getting back into those discussions where, we look at it? We've had these discussions with music. We've had these discussions with horror movies. We've had with horror games, with the Mortal Kombat games when those came out. Is this along those same lines, and do we need to be just completely eliminating it? Again, does that really cause people to do these actions? I would like to say, well, people are jumping off of buildings anyhow. That is what parkour is about. Look at how many people prior to CensorHot were climbing buildings, doing tricks, and falling, but they weren't playing CensorHot.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so was that the game? Is it the game that causes it? Or is it just our society and we're just trying to be considerate?
But my thing is, what if they're not even necessarily thinking about the player? They're just like, they just looked back and they're like, oh my God, we made this content, and they themselves didn't even agree with that being a part of the game anymore.
Well, that's what it looks like.
Like you said,
yeah.
just in like how society puts stuff on TV, there is a point sometimes where I'm like, did we really need this? Like, I'm a huge fan of a lot of like HBO and Star shows that have like gratuitous sex and violence, and like, don't get me wrong, I still enjoy them. Spartacus is one of my favorite shows. True Blood is one of my favorite shows,
right.
And they have gratuitous, especially Spartacus, violence and sex.
Yes.
And so I'm like, but is this necessary to tell the story? No, it's really not. And so my thing with them, maybe they thought, this is actually kind of like too much. Maybe we don't want to do this anymore. And I get where like people are coming from, because they're like, hey, I bought this game as is. How are you just gonna like fuck off? Now my thing is, I wonder if they could make a market selling like a physical release that has that on it. Like, if you really want it this bad, here it is. You know?
Even then, though, you run into a problem. There is a physical for CensorHot VR, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I have it.
Yeah, and they're unrelated, and it'll crop up but there is a physical of CensorHot for Switch coming, and I think there's a PS4 physical already. But the thing is you pop that in, and it auto checks with the server, and it looks for an update, and if the update's there, it's going to auto apply it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
the only way
could play it. You could play it that way. Just take it offline and.
Right.
Yeah.
Larry and I also did a thing, like, instead of removing this content entirely, unless like they did themselves, just like if they were worried about their art, okay, but if they're worried about the player, he and I said, why couldn't they make an update that had a trigger warning at the beginning of the game that says this game
Modern Warfare did it.
Like, this game contains, scenes of self-harm.
Right.
Like, if you do not want these, go to the settings and delete these scenes. And I'm like, that would have been an easier fix. But I really think it just comes down to them being uncomfortable that it's in their game, because there are several other avenues they could have went if they were concerned about the player, which they already did with the toggle switch. But then I did combat Larry in saying, I've never beat CensorHot until this morning. I didn't even know that was in there. So I would have gone to play the game and just walked into it. But with the trigger warning, would have solved my problem. So...
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so I'm like, I definitely think this move was them and just how they felt about the art itself, and not so much player driven.
So,
of course, I actually feel good that the developers did it, and it wasn't like a country or a publisher saying, look, you need to take this out. It makes me feel a little better, because they're the people who are telling you how the game is intended to be played. So if all of a sudden that this is not in line with what they feel that this game is, then that's okay to me.
Yeah.
It's
better that it came out now. I'm glad they're thinking. They're thinking ahead. They're thinking about it. They're not reacting. They're being proactive.
So what I brought up to Zoe when she and I were talking about it earlier was that this mentally harkens back for me to earlier this year, the Dr. Seuss discontinuations that were voluntary. However, there's a big difference here for me, is that one, if you really wanted, you can still get your hands on those books.
Sure.
They're not gone from the world. They still exist.
Right.
However, here, again, with the almost ubiquitous online connectivity, that update's going to get pushed through. You boot up your copy and that content is gone. And, you know, if you bought this game, and that's a part of that game that, you know, for you is a integral part of your experience of, you know, how this game is structured and how it tells its story, and then suddenly it's gone, you now have a fundamentally different game as well. And I likened it to the concept of, imagine if J.K. Rowling, just as a placeholder example that I feel like fits well here, was able to essentially go in and change every copy of Harry Potter retroactively post-release to make whatever the hell changes she wanted, and you couldn't do anything about it. And a book that you bought that you were very attached to is now no longer the same book.
Yeah. So, okay. I hear you, what you're saying.
Mhm.
I just think that this is another realm of like physical media versus digital media too. It's a digital rights issue. It's like, what do you actually own? What do you actually, what are you actually, you bought a license to the game if you got it digitally. You didn't actually buy the game. You still don't buy the game when it's on a disc, but at least that is a copy that will never change, right?
Yeah.
So even like something like Cyberpunk, which is totally broken on my physical copy, if I even put it in, I can't even play it until I update it. But I have that, right? Like if somebody like 20 years from now wants to say, what was that game like? You can put that in and see.
Because I was going to say, even on the Switch, like, I've had games where it's like, hey, it needs an update. And I'm like, I don't feel like waiting for that right now. And I just bypass it. I mean, eventually I feel like with CensorHot, there would be a point where, like, you couldn't do that and you would just have to update it. But, like, you know, I feel like if this is what the creators of the game want, then, like, it sucks. But, like, I feel like we should honor that. It's the people that made it. How are we going to try and tell them, well, no, you can't change your product that you invented? Like,
this comes back to the idea of something how it was intended and something how it is. And sometimes, you know, like a creator will say like, oh, we removed that bug because you're playing it too easy. That wasn't how we intended it to be. So we remove like a cheese method to beat a boss or something. And people get angry about it, but they're like, oh yeah, we get it. They move on. I think there's a lot of outrage about a lot of things, but to me, this is not one thing to be outraged about. But I do understand why some people are like, well, you're changing the product. But people change the product all the time. And we have updates on games all the time now. It's not even, I mean, you should just be thankful that you're getting a lot of these updates with like CensorHot for free.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, here would have been my thought, at least, is maybe go the what the hell was that game? There was a basketball game on the Switch in the first year or two of release, and it had some issues, especially in terms of them rolling out like their online multiplayer components. And so what they ended up doing was they actually rolled out a separate version of the game that was free to download for everybody that had already purchased the original game up to that point, and said, here you go, this is like got everything and done. I feel like that maybe could have been a good route to go here, where, you know, they release maybe the edited cut as a separate edition for those that want it, you know, free to those that have already purchased the game, and leave the option of having your original version unaltered if you want that version, because you did pay for that, and, you know, that was part of the story that was told, and now you may not have a way to go back and revisit that story in its original form before content was cut and edited. It's almost the opposite of a director's cut fundamentally, because you're losing stuff out of the story.
Well, it's almost like you're saying, do you want to see the theatrical cut or do you want to see the director's cut?
Yeah, but in this rare case, the theatrical cut
is the only one
technically more complete. Yeah,
and it's gone, and you don't have the option. Yeah, so you're into like you just want the option.
Yeah, the option should exist, and that's to say nothing of the actual, you know, game preservation argument as well too.
Right.
Of, you know, if this is not handled very delicately and by some people that actually, you know, care, and this is very much like their thing, that content could very well be gone in an interactive fashion forever.
Yeah, definitely could be.
And on the subject of preservation, that's a travesty.
It is, and that's why I'm saying it goes back to a rights issue about what do you own, what do you have rights to, and what, like, as a person who purchased a license of that game. Now, no one reads EULAs, but if you read that EULA, I guarantee you it would say that they could change that game in however they want, and they could even revoke that license at any time, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because that happens. They'll delist stuff, and you won't have access to it anymore.
Right.
So I mean, it is an issue. I also think that because a lot of it was the VR experience, I think after they started playing this and they started like seeing how it was in the wild, I think that's a whole nother issue is the way of immersiveness to it. Because even on Xbox One, you can play it on the VR issue, but it's not the VR. It's just that edition. So that's a little different. But like they were saying that in an article I read that they were talking about how it even triggered some people's like just this jumping part. They didn't want to do it because it was like triggering their instinct not to jump. So I get that idea, like Kathy was saying, that it was kind of like it might kind of desensitize people to this idea that like, oh, well, if I do this in the game, still though, I mean, it is a far stretch, and it's that stretch that happened in the 90s when Joe Lieberman was in front of Congress and telling everybody that these violent video games are going to be violent, and if you guys don't regulate yourself, we're going to regulate for you. And then the ESRB was born,
Yeah.
And so this is kind of like them, I think, jumping on and saying like, let's regulate ourselves, because if we do it, then no one else is going to come on and say, hey, do it. Because when government gets involved, then they tell everybody what's good.
Right.
And you don't have a choice. So I mean, it's weird. It's a good conversation.
It's a very multi-pronged issue for sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of components here. And again, I don't know if there's necessarily a right answer. I do think personally I would have preferred a different solution that, leaves the content available somewhere, possibly with a disclaimer, but at least available for consumption for those that want it, as opposed to
even
trying
like
to
I said, like Modern Warfare 2 and the No Russian mission.
Yeah.
That is, I think, way more controversial than this was. And they put just a toggle in there saying you can play this mission or don't. It doesn't affect the game. If you don't want, you can play it even how you want to play it.
Right.
Like you don't have to shoot anything or you don't have to do anything. So I mean, that would have been interesting if like you didn't have to jump off the building or you didn't have to kill yourself. That kind of thing. Like, would that have been an issue? I don't know, but like you're saying, it's a multi-pronged topic for sure.
It really is. Like, as someone who has dealt with issues of with just issues that get brought up in the game, I wouldn't even know, like, just knowing that there's a scene where like I have to be outside myself and like kill myself just seems unsettling for someone like me. I don't. I feel like just for me, knowing that that's in there now, I no longer want to play the game. Like, I'm just like, I don't know if I can handle that. And I'm just like, what if, like, and I'm just sitting here thinking, like, I didn't know that was there until this morning. What if I had gotten into it?
I mean, they added the toggle. How long ago? It was quite a while ago. They added the toggle.
But I
know what you're saying. But I know what
like
you're saying.
Me, I don't stay up with game news. I'm gonna be real honest. Like, half the news I get is because Larry's like, "Hey, did you hear about this thing?" And I'm like, "You know the answer to that before you even ask that, right?"
That's a conversation starter. Yeah.
And I'm like, "No, Larry, but I know you're gonna tell me about it, so let's go." So when he was like, "Something's going on with CensorHot," I'm like, "Oh man, I've heard of this game. It looks really cool, but I've never finished it." Just because even the console version playing it just the way it's played just always kind of just skeeves me out a bit. Like, it seems so unnatural. And then when I found that was in there, I'm like, I suffer with a lot of self-esteem issues and just like, how I look at myself. I don't know if I want to kill myself in a video game. I get that the thing looks nothing like me, and
I know what you're saying, yeah.
But like, I don't know if I'd want to do that. Like, no. So I'm very happy that this article showed up, and now I know do not play CensorHot because I would have to do that. But this is where I think like I said before, if they were player centered, they could have just added it like a warning.
Yeah.
And that would have solved it. I just think they're like, yeah, this is no longer something we're behind. We can get behind.
Well, and the other piece to be considered here too, I think, is context in which this happens in the game, because there is a distinct, bizarre context where yes, it's technically an act of self-harm, but it's also being forced upon you by someone or something else.
It's kind of like you're in the Matrix.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little bit like architecture, like the architect kind of thing. It's like vis-a-vis, I'm gonna do this because I'm controlling you. You're not controlling yourself. There's no fate. There's no fate here. It's kind of like that's how it was. Yeah. But you're right. You're right, Larry. There's a bunch of different. I mean, even Zoe's right. Everyone's right. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't. There's no wrong answer here. It has a lot of emotions both ways. And so, I mean, it's just really hard to say. I am glad that, I'm just going to pivot back on. I'm glad the developer of the game said, we don't want this in here anymore. At least that gives me some peace of mind that they weren't. Maybe somebody said, hey, maybe you want to revisit this. But I would think in general, because CensorHot started off so different than it's grown into, that I can definitely see them wanting to kind of update it, get it ready so that it's like, because it's basically product as a service now. I mean, it just keeps getting updates, and some of them are paid, some of them aren't, but it's always making the game better.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm glad with that.
Also, I think people just you were already talking about it. When we get games, we don't own the game, not in its entirety.
Right.
You have the right to play the game.
Yeah.
And I'm just like you said, they're going in and changing things and doing things all the time. Like, I do stuff on TikTok, and I'm like, I'll go back and delete videos that I'm like, man, no, and I'll delete them. And actually saw that happen where one of my favorite TikTokers posted something, and someone commented, hey, where did that video go? I really liked it. And turns out they had like a nip slip in the TikTok that they didn't realize, so obviously they had to take it down. But like, that's something that got put out. The person liked it, and it's no longer something that they're able to do anymore. It's just gone, and they're going to have to live with that. Now, granted, it's on a very smaller scale. It's TikTok, but like at the same time, like when you're a TikToker to where like your influx of money is through TikTok, like it's different, and their consumer, their buyer, no longer can get this content that was originally put out. And I'm just like, we forget sometimes that the content we consume through media, they're allowed to go back and change. I remember people were pissed at the same time during, was it 13 Reasons Why?
Yeah.
Because of how that ended with that scene, and it's no longer available. Now, I was kind of pissed. I was like, I personally the scene didn't bother me, which I am to this day highly surprised that it did not. But to me, it just made it so real. As someone who's dealt with like those ideations, I'm just like, oh shit, that's what it looks like. That's the reality of the situation. And it was so shocking. And so I almost wish they had put like 2 versions, but now it's just gone. And I will never be able to go back and watch it how I watched it the first time. And it sucks, but they have every right to change it.
I wonder if that version is what was on the DVD box set, though, because I don't remember if that change was made before or after that DVD release.
I have no idea, but I think I have the first season, so I could look. I have the first and second.
It's a thing that's starting to come around too in like streaming services. LeGrew, I know you and the missus, dig the Marvel stuff, as do most of the rest of us. It was a real minor change, and it didn't get a whole lot of noise. But here in the last couple of weeks, they actually Marvel went back in and tweaked the ending for WandaVision very quietly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Yes. They tweaked the after credits sequence or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one that was on a streaming service that was changed. There was a couple of changes, at least one that I know of, made to a show on Netflix called Travelers.
Yes.
There was a scene that was cut out and changed. They found out some information about some like stock footage that was used as part of that, and cut that out and replaced it with something else. Because that stock footage had like some real nasty history attached to it that some people didn't realize when they used it.
Right.
So, and these things are starting to crop up more and more too. So, but yeah, it's definitely a complicated, slightly prickly issue, but I will echo the sentiment that I'm glad that this came by way of the developer's choice, as opposed to somebody's arm being twisted on it by way of outrage or anything like that. But by the same token, part of me thinks if there was going to be an outrage on the subject, it would have happened long ago at this point. And so, and
it's kind of hard to tell, because people revisit this content and they look at it through today's lens, right? So even though this came out in 2016, like, even if you watch, like, go back and watch like Casablanca again, like there's things in that you would never see today, right?
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, it's just those old people. That was how it was. But now they can go back and change that stuff.
Like, my thing is, like, people are getting so mad at like so many small things. Like, Disney put a content warning in front of Aladdin to let them know that, like, hey, this is a very unrealistic depiction of the Middle East, and these are no longer the views of the company. And people got pissed that they put that there. And I'm like, you want companies to be more conscious, and then get mad when they are being more conscious and acknowledging that, hey, this past stuff was not that good. They also say something about the birds in Dumbo.
Yeah. My whole thing is, are they really mad, or they just don't know what they're mad at? That's what I'm saying. Like, are they actually mad at the company, or are they mad at
they're mad at the people that apparently that they're doing this for. Basically the whole, oh my God, everyone's a snowflake and can't take, I'm like, I understand this, but God forbid you show it to like a kid.
Well, like, I wouldn't show a kid Dumbo anyway. You know how sad Dumbo is? I cry my eyes out on Dumbo. I'm like,
people got mad when they cut the crows out of the live action, and I was like, you understand why they did that, right? Like, come on now. You'd be pissed if they stuck them in. You'd be like, oh my God, racism. But then, like, you can't win for losing these days. You're gonna piss off one group of people.
Yeah, you can't make everyone happy. That's true.
So I know I have, and I know regrettably Larry has seen Bo Burnham's Inside, his special Inside, and he does a whole song about how, like, oh shit, I did so much stuff back in the day that is not cool anymore. Right. And then I saw someone even criticizing the fact that, like, Bo Burnham's not cool, he's just a woke white guy. And I'm like, but, like, do you understand in today's society being a woke white guy is like a thing? And so, but I'm just like, why are you criticizing him for being woke? Like, you pick bigger things. There are so many other things that are seriously happening right now. I feel like all these little peedly shit is making the harder actual fights that much harder to fight, because they took an honest narrative and then ran with it. And I'm just like, no, you took it too far. Bring it back. We're doing too much. And so now everyone just screams, oh, everyone's too sensitive. And I'm just like, but we're not. We're really not. We're just being aware. There's a difference.
So I'm just watching our time here. I'd like to kind of wrap this with a quick rapid fire, up or down vote, so to speak. End of the day, good call, bad call, or as yet to be determined. Zoe.
Good call, because now I can play the game.
LeGrew.
I'm glad that more people are more willing to, do it, like play the game like Zoe. I'm glad that she wants to actually play it now. I'm kind of indifferent on what it means for the game. I just want to play it again.
And Kathy.
Good call, but I think maybe it could have been done a little differently. But overall, good call on the developer.
And I'm going to close this with the thought that potentially treacherous territory, possibly heading towards a slippery slope, but not the worst thing that could have happened.
No, not at all.
So, but with all that said, let's close this out. And of course, we'd love to hear your feedback and continue the conversation over on our Twitter at World1_1 podcast. And I want to thank my friends for coming and hanging out with me this evening. Zoe, Kathy, Josh. I have no idea if I pointed in the correct places when this lays out in the auto record on Skype, but there it is. And thank everybody who tuned in and listened this evening. So with all that said, love for all of you to have a great evening. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us. Everybody say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
Night.
Good night.
We'll catch you next time out here on World 1-1 Podcast. Peace!